Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I have Steve with us this week. I can't wait for him to share his story with us. As usual, I'm super pumped, but he's got a special podcast that he's going to share with us on top of course, what he does for a living as well. So, with that said, Steve, I want to give you a big warm welcome to the Tony Shap Show.
It is great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, let's open it up with a one word open. If you could give us a one word to describe how you're feeling, let's just kick it off with that.
Cool. Well, I work at our core, we are a writing company. So I will tell you that my team really wanted me to say unhinged, but I'm not going to say that. My word for the day is vivacious.
I love it. That's really great. It's the first time I've heard someone's used that word, so that's great. With that said, let's go right into business, Steve. Can you share with us a little bit more about your story, your company, where you are, your why, and where you're going? I know it's a mouthful. It could be 10 minutes for you to answer that, but feel free to just fire away.
Cool. Thank you. I will, I'll give a little bit about myself, then I'll jump into Verblio. So I started out, I was fascinated by a nonprofit movement called Community Development Finance. So I spent the first part of my career bringing together a lot of the key elements of startups, which is how do you disrupt an industry by bringing in key elements and things that have worked in another industry, the number one technique for actually being successful with your startup. But doing it without resources. So I was really focused on first low income housing techniques, and the second was micro lending. So how do you bring together new concepts in finance to create more opportunities for more people that are in need of those opportunities? So I did that both in the Bay Area for a really long time, and then I did it in South America for a couple of years as well. And I thought that one of the big challenges was in nonprofit world, you're always doing as much as you can as your resources allow, as opposed to what you should be doing. So in startup land, you look for the big opportunity, then you find the investment and you try to align those things. In nonprofit land, you do what you can, even though you believe it, the mission should be bigger. And so what I loved about the nonprofit world was the passion, the excitement about a cause, and the desire to do something new. And I was pretty convinced that that's what I was going to do the rest of my life. And I went to Kellogg to get my MBA, and I came out in the dot bomb with the lowest number of hiring class hired after we graduated in the history of Kellogg. And so I was scrambling to figure out what to do. And I eventually landed at a foundational, life changing experience with my first startup, which was called LiveOps. I was there as a kind of employee 30-ish with about single digit millions in revenue. And we grew to 450 people, 150 million in revenue. And it brought together a few key elements that really just changed my life and possibilities. So the first was investment. We had VC backers and we could do what we needed to. The second was technologists. We had a bunch of the early Netscape team who could just create the world. If you envisioned it, they could bring it to life. What does that power bring? And the third was the concept of marketplace and SaaS together, which is what Verblio does and how I got here, which is if you have a pool of unique talent and you can figure out how to motivate them and how to curate them, you apply that to a SaaS platform so you can do it virtually anywhere and deliver it at scale with quality. And then you think about a new business model for what gels these things together. What can you create? And so we created a giant call center. We probably should have, with those key ingredients back in the early 2000s, thought about taxis because Uber would have been a really good model for us. But we created all sorts of unique businesses that had never been done before. And I think I think Marketplace plus SaaS is a business that really inspired me, the people and the technology coming together. And after doing a lot of working in different areas of the startup world, of just trying to come in, build new products, new visions, being a general manager in different types of startups. I was asked to be a first-time CEO at Verblio 4.5 years ago, and we are and that is a ride that I've loved more than anything else that I've done. So we started out about $2 million business. We've grown 400% plus on our road to 10 million quickly this year, and our business is bringing together those three key elements: a marketplace of incredible content creators, a SaaS platform for how do you create content at scale, and a unique business model that motivates all sides. And we've done that. We now create about 80,000 pieces of unique content per year for 40 different verticals. We're based in Denver, Colorado, and we try to make it as a fun, engaging place to work as humanly possible. And I'm very happy to be here.
I love it. Thanks for giving us that high level overview and the background. That's important for our audience to be right here with us, on the same page. So that's really great. Let's talk about a recent win, Steve. If you could share with us something that you've recently, put a W, so to speak, on the wall, and something that you're proud of in business context. And also, when you're sharing that with us, if you could tell us what you learned from it, that would be wonderful.
Awesome. I really like the recent approach to that because in startup land, you can't think too much on your past history. So I have one from this week, which is great because recency bias is another major bias in startup land, and that is that we have a company changing type of opportunity in front of us, which is we need deep expert marketing or subject matter expertise for our 3,000 writers in order to deliver to a content at such scale that we would transform their business. Um, and so, two things about this opportunity were great. One is this really brings together everything that I believe about marketplace and SaaS. You should be able to create quality at scale that nobody else can for any niche. But in order to do that, you really have to have a deep understanding of the expertise of your writers or your other content creators. So, first is that we've evolved our platform to really deliver on that vision. The second piece is that all of this happened without me. So, as many of CEOs who are listening to the show know, your entire job as a CEO is to get rid of your job and to find a new job again and again every 3 months. And last year was really focused on building out my executive team to scale us to 20, 30 million plus. And the team ran all of this without me. In the one meeting that I attended, I was basically told that I should really leave the meeting because everything was going so well. And it feels like an incredible accomplishment because I feel like in the business world, we talk so much about the client wins, the revenue wins, the metrics that get us there. But truly, what drives a business is day to day execution, every single hire, every single personal interaction with your team for motivation, and doing the million things right every day. And they all pay off when something like that happens.
Outstanding. What about a recent not so win, and what did you learn from it?
The let's see the classic getting over your skis when somebody brings you an opportunity, a client brings you an opportunity, and you have to adjust your company to say, are we dropping everything to do this even though it doesn't feel like a fit, to see if you could stretch yourselves. So there were a couple content types that were just not in our wheelhouse. In particular, there's there's kind of the content type, which is this was deep financial expertise that had to be regulated, which is something we couldn't do and tried to stretch us for. And the second is the client. You just have to get better and better at understanding, is this a client who's going to work with you, be flexible, iterate to the point that you're going to build something together, or they're going to have you invest deeply on your side before they cut it. And did not set up that I did not set up that contract to make sure the incentives were aligned, because there needs to be skin in the game. If your client's coming to you, even with a lot on the line, where they have a lot to lose if they don't deliver on the pilot on their side too.
Absolutely. I mean, when you were sharing that with us, I couldn't help not to think about like the amount of revisions that would have taken for, something that has to have compliance approval and, the regulatory stuff so it's a good thing you avoided that. That's awesome. Let's move on to expenses. So business expense, when it comes to business expenses, everyone says, number one thing, which is a given, is your team, your account, stuff like that. So what would you consider is, what is the top expense right now in your business other than your team?
So, so it's kind of my team, but it's also my marketplace of writers. So this will always be my number one expense. So we give half of our revenue we pay to writers so that they can create great freelance businesses. And we focus as a company that we want to pay a premium. We want to pay a premium rate and give better opportunities to these writers so that they're even more motivated and excited. So we have kind of an opposite strategy as opposed to the classic marketplace drive down the payments that you're giving to your writers. I want those to go up every year. Every single year that I have a price increase, they get a price increase. And so it's my basic expense, and I want it to be.
Gotcha. And so I have to ask this question because, I'm in payments. This show is sponsored by my company. And I always ask this question when it comes to accepting payments. I don't know if this is applicable to you, but does accepting payments fit anywhere in the top five expenses for you?
It's not in my top five,
Okay.
but it's still important, and I'd love to talk to you about it more.
Perfect. So, and then also, we could talk about that later, sure. And then, what about, this is going to be an awkward question. So, what's that one question whenever you're giving, your talks, or you're being interviewed, or you're doing a keynote, what's that one question you wish that people would ask you, Steve, that nobody does ever ask you?
So, what I like to be asked, and what I think is really interesting, is I think we are creating a marketing engine capability that nobody else has. If you think about content differently, you can use it as a competitive advantage to really set your company account. So, I want to be asked the question of what can I be doing strategically with content because of Verblio that nobody else is doing? And I'll give you some examples of that. So, some examples are we can build a pool of specialized writers. So we have, of our 3,000 writers, all of them are curated. We accept about 4.5% that just get into our marketplace based on writing capability. And then we ask them all for their areas of expertise. So within that pool is a tremendous amount of expertise. And one of my favorite examples actually comes from Live Ops, where I was working with Transamerica, and they were one of my vendors, and I asked them, what would it take to be a client? And they said it would take, you have to have hundreds of insurance agents, and every insurance agent that you bring on is going to cost you $6,000 a year to license. So they were like, that'll never happen. So instead, we went to our marketplace of 20,000 stay-at-home moms, and we said, how many of you are licensed insurance agents? And we had 500. And what that means is we had the largest licensed insurance call center in the world and didn't know it.
Mm.
I have that now with my writers. I have the largest financial service writing group. I have the largest legal writing group, the largest tech writing group. And it's up to us to bring that together and to find clients with the inspiration and to iterate back and forth. And how can we build something that is so customized and unique to you that we can give you a key advantage? And we've done that for things like legal, where we bring together lawyers that edit every piece of content for our 100 legal writers so that you can just flood your personal injury space with the more content than your competitors can keep up with.
That's beautiful. And here's another question for you. What would you tell your 21-year-old self if you could go back in time and just, go to reverse and say, hey, you're faced off with yourself at 21. What was that? If you could give one advice to your 21-year-old self, what would it be?
Remember that story about how I started in nonprofits? Well, I started in nonprofits in 1996 in the biggest accumulation of wealth in human history in San Francisco. And I worked in affordable housing, and I qualified for affordable housing. So my biggest advice would be go into tech in 1996 in San Francisco.
I love it. That's different. That's very cool. Okay. Awesome. And if our viewers want to find out more, before obviously tell us your website so they can go there to find out more information if they want to reach out to you as well. And be sure to let us know about your podcast as well if they wanted to let them know what they're in for, if they wanted to check you out to find out more information too.
Cool. Thanks so much. So our website is Verblio, Verblio.com. We try to make it as fun and engaging as possible. We are a writing company, so hopefully you'll actually enjoy looking at it. You can find me on LinkedIn at Steve Pockross. And then my podcast is the Yes and Marketing Show, which is really bringing together the concept of marketing thought leadership in a different way that I do every week.
Excellent. I'll be sure to put all those links in the show notes for our listeners. That way they could connect with you if they're driving right now or working out at a gym. So that's perfect. So if you could sign us off with a one-word close, what's that one-word close that you're thinking about right now, and also why? And then we'll just sign off at that point.
Got it. This is can I just go into vivacious, my first word, and explain the why? So
Please.
So vivacious is, I think, so vivacious to us as a writing company is our number one value at Verblio. We spend a lot of time creating our core values of the company, of what motivates us and captures us. And so being vivacious and enthusiastic on the daily is the way that I think about our business, which is bringing the right amount of energy and excitement to all aspects of your business, and all aspects of your day, which is always quite varied. So I'm excited about this conversation, and I'm excited about the next one as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Looking forward to having you back on here soon so we can catch up.
I'm looking forward to it too. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.